Your mornings can define the rest of your day. Every choice you make before the world demands your attention sets the tone for focus, energy, and results. This video will show you how to spend your mornings on personal goals, building routines that make progress unavoidable. You will learn how to structure your time so that your most important work gets done when your mind is sharpest and your energy is highest. You will discover practical steps to block distractions, organize your space, and take consistent action toward the skills and projects that matter most. By following these methods, you can turn simple morning habits into long-term success, discipline, and personal growth. Stick with this video to learn actionable strategies that you can start using immediately. Subscribe for more content from Audiobook Shift to keep leveling up every day. Number 1. Remove noise. Protect your attention. Remove noise and protect your attention. This is the single most important decision a person can make when building a life that matters. Attention is the raw material of action, the quiet engine behind progress, relationships, and inner peace. When it fragments, work becomes shallow, conversation loses depth, and the future intended is replaced by the future that other people, apps, and circumstances draft for you. This chapter gives clear methods to reclaim focus, practical routines to defend attention, and small, repeatable actions that produce measurable change every week. Start with a simple fact. Attention is limited. Treat it like money. A budget brings clarity. Create an attention budget for 1 week. For 7 days, keep a plain notebook or a simple timer on the phone, and record what consumes a block of your attention each hour. Be honest. Record scrolling, notifications, email, meetings, active work, walking, meals, conversation. At the end of the week, look for patterns. Which activities produce energy and forward motion? Which activities drain and fragment? This is not judgment. This is data. Stoic practice begins and ends with clear facts. The audit reveals where noise sits in the life. Noise is not only sounds. Noise is any input that steals attention from deliberate work or presence. It is the chat bubble, the badge count, the habit of opening a feed when the mind feels idle, the cluttered desk that pulls the eye, the constant multitasking during conversation, the email that becomes a panic trigger. Noise is often convenient and disguised as harmless leisure. The first rule: remove the easy sources first. Turn off non-essential notifications. Remove social media apps from the home screen or log out between uses. Convert the phone to grayscale for a week and notice the drop in automatic reaching. Silence badges. If an app cannot survive a day without being opened, it is not a friend of attention. Design the environment as if attention were fragile. The physical room matters. A clear desk is not about aesthetics alone. It reduces visual friction. Put pens, notebooks, chargers in fixed places. If possible, create a dedicated workspace that signals the brain. This is focus. If that is not possible, use a ritual to mark the start and end of focus time. A kettle on the stove, a specific playlist, a 60-second breathing routine. Rituals are not magic, but they bracket attention and reduce the mental cost of starting. Use time blocks and single tasking. Multitasking is a myth that masks shallow productivity. Block 2 to 4 times each day for deep work. Each block should be clearly defined. Write for 50 minutes. Read for 45 minutes. Practice a skill for 30 minutes. During those blocks, eliminate temptations. Put the phone in another room or in airplane mode. Disable email and chat notifications on the computer. If full silence feels extreme, use white noise or instrumental music that acts as a background anchor rather than an attention grabber. A simple timer cultivates presence. Start the timer, commit to the work, and watch calm arrive. Create no screen zones and times. Meals, the first 60 minutes after waking, and the hour before bed are high-impact windows. The first hour is a sacred time to shape the day rather than be shaped by it. Use that hour for breathing, light movement, reading, planning, and one focused task. The last hour should be a buffer that prepares sleep. Dim lights. Read a physical book. Write a brief journal entry about what went well and what to improve tomorrow. These windows reduce the noise of constant input and allow attention to recover. Set clear rules for communication. The world expects immediate responses, but immediate responses dismantle attention. Create response protocols. Set 2 or 3 times a day to process email and messages. Communicate these rules to your team, family, or friends with short, firm language. For example, messages will be checked at 10 arrowed and 16 arrowed. And if something is urgent, call. Short, decisive boundaries remove ambiguity and reduce reactive behavior. A Stoic accepts that the external world will send demands. The strong respond from a place of choice. Practice a digital declutter every month. Pick a weekend hour and delete apps and services that add noise. Unsubscribe from newsletters that do not give clear value. Reevaluate subscriptions that nibble at attention. Move the distracting sites behind a paywall or a blocker. Set time limits for leisure platforms using built-in tools or third-party apps. These structural changes reduce the need for willpower in the moment because the obstacles are removed beforehand. Develop the skill of 1-minute threshold. This is not about chores only. It applies to attention. If something will take under 1 minute and will immediately remove a distractor, close an extra tab, clear a small pile of papers, set a 5-minute timer to close open tabs, then do it now. These small acts reduce background noise and make starting the next deep work session easier. Conversely, prepare start lists of the exact first 3 actions to take for any deep task. When the mind hesitates, the list removes decision friction. Practice short meditations that train attention like a muscle. 2 or 3 times daily, sit quietly for 5 minutes, watch the breath, and note when the mind wanders. The practice is simple. Notice, return, repeat. This exercise is not mystical. It strengthens the neural pathways of sustained attention, reduces reactivity, and builds the capacity to stay with difficult tasks. Combine breathing with sensory anchors. Feel the chair beneath the body, the weight of hands, the sound of the room. Stoic attention begins in the body. Guard attention socially. Conversations deserve presence. When speaking with someone, drop the phone or place it face down and out of reach. Listen fully. The quieter the external noise, the deeper the conversation. Presence in conversation makes relationships stronger and drains less energy. If social gatherings are draining due to surface-level interaction, design an exit plan. I will stay 90 minutes. Boundaries make social life sustainable and keep attention from being eaten by low-value interactions. Measure the payoff. After making changes, track impact for a month. Use simple measures. Number of deep work blocks completed. Number of focused minutes per day. Mood rating at bedtime. Progress on one meaningful project. The aim is not perfection, but direction. If attention improvements correlate with more meaningful outcomes, faster skill gains, calmer evenings, better relationships, then the practice is working. Stoics appreciate measurable progress. Data supports discipline and reduces the chance of drifting back into old. Learn the art of saying no. Saying no is not cruelty. It is clarity. Use short, principled refusals. If invited to an event that fragments energy and yields no long-term benefit, decline. If a meeting lacks an agenda and decision points, refuse or ask for a written objective first. Protect the calendar like a treasured resource. The calendar is the public expression of attention. Fill it with what matters. The calendar will silently shape the life. Use external anchors to protect internal will. If willpower is a limited resource, design systems that reduce reliance on it. Schedule focus blocks as recurring calendar events labeled UN available. Focus. Share the status with colleagues. Use a physical signal, a simple sign on the door or a pair of headphones that means do not disturb. Make the default state one that protects attention, and then use willpower only for exception. Anticipate and plan for relapse. Old habits will creep back. When they do, respond with curiosity rather than harshness. Write a brief note in the attention journal. What triggered the drift? What small environmental adjustment could prevent this next time? Stoic practice is iterative. Build 3 simple safeguards and test them. Replace reactive scrolling with one of the following: a 5-minute walk, a single page of reading, or a 90-second breathing practice. When a craving arises, choose one replacement and practice it consistently. Finally, remember why this matters. Attention is the currency through which meaning flows. When attention is defended, learning accelerates, relationships deepen, time fills with the projects that actually matter. There is a tangible peace that comes from controlling where the mind goes. Picture ordinary mornings that feel dense with clear actions rather than scattered tasks. Imagine conversations that feel complete and unfragmented. Imagine completing weeks that inch a project closer to completion. These are not fantasies. They are the product of small, repeated choices. Commit to one immediate action today, pick 1 hour tomorrow morning, and protect it completely. Put the phone on airplane mode, close all unrelated tabs, and work on one important task. No multitasking, no notifications, no excuse. After the hour, write 3 sentences describing what changed in attention, mood, and output. Repeat this ritual 3 times a week for a month and track the difference. Discipline here is not a punishment. It is the craft of freedom. Removing noise to protect attention is a modest daily discipline that compounds into less worry, more competence, and a quieter mind. This is the point. The external world will push and pull, but attention remains the one small sovereign within command. Guard it deliberately, practice with patience, and watch a life focused on real priorities grow. Number 2, build routines that support growth. Building routines that support growth is the cornerstone of transformation. Change does not come from random effort or bursts of motivation. It comes from repeated, structured action that compounds over time. A life designed around intentional routines is predictable in its discipline, resilient in its consistency, and steady in its results. The difference between a person who drifts through life and a person who achieves meaningful growth lies in the habits and routines they cultivate. Growth routines are not about doing more. They are about doing what matters consistently. Start by understanding the purpose of routines. A routine is not a rigid schedule meant to create stress. It is a framework that conserves mental energy, automates good decisions, and creates momentum. Without routines, every day becomes a battle against distraction and indecision. With routines, energy is preserved for meaningful choices, for skill development, for deep work, and for reflection. Growth routines are like a scaffold that supports the structure of your life, allowing the foundations to strengthen without constant strain. Begin by identifying key areas of growth. These are the areas that, when developed, produce measurable improvements in skill, resilience, health, and mindset. They might include physical fitness, learning, professional development, financial discipline, emotional regulation, or creative expression. List 3 to 5 areas that matter most for long-term impact. Focus routines around these priorities rather than filling the day with low-value tasks. Every routine should serve a clear purpose, acting as a deliberate investment of time into yourself. Once priorities are clear, design routines around predictable timing. The brain thrives on predictability. Choose consistent times to engage in each routine. Mornings are often ideal for cognitive and physical growth because decision fatigue is minimal. Afternoon blocks may suit creative tasks or relationship building. Evening routines can consolidate learning, reflection, and recovery. When routines are attached to time anchors, they require less mental effort to initiate. The body and mind begin to anticipate the activity, and execution becomes almost automatic, creating momentum without friction. Routines should start small. Growth does not require heroic effort from day one. Begin with minimal, achievable actions that establish consistency. For example, reading 10 pages a day, performing 10 push-ups, or spending 5 minutes journaling can create the habit loop that leads to more substantial growth later. Small victories reinforce identity. You become someone who shows up, someone who follows through. Identity change is the hidden driver of progress. Each day of practice solidifies the belief that you are disciplined, committed, and capable. Structure routines to include 3 essential elements: preparation, execution, and reflection. Preparation involves setting the environment to facilitate action. Lay out workout clothes, place a book on your desk, or prepare materials in advance. Execution is the committed performance of the activity without negotiation. Reflection consolidates the gains. Journaling a thought, reviewing progress, or noting insights strengthens memory and creates awareness. Without reflection, routines can become mechanical, losing their power to shape personal growth. Each repetition should leave a trace in both skill and self-awareness. Accountability enhances routine adherence. External or internal accountability ensures that routines survive the temptations of distraction or fatigue. Use a tracker, a journal, or an app to mark completion. Share progress with a trusted friend, mentor, or coach. The visibility of commitment encourages persistence. Accountability does not need to be rigid or punitive. It can simply act as a mirror, reflecting whether actions align with intentions. Consistency emerges when small actions are monitored, measured, and respected. Flexibility should be intentional, not accidental. Life is unpredictable, and routines should account for variation without surrendering discipline. Build buffer zones for days when energy is low, travel occurs, or emergencies appear. Adaptation is a skill that ensures routines remain sustainable over years rather than weeks. Avoid rigidity that leads to guilt or abandonment. Instead, cultivate a resilient pattern where a missed session triggers a planned alternative. Growth is the product of long-term consistency, not short-term perfection. Link routines to values and long-term goals. Growth is sustainable when it connects to what matters most. When a routine reflects personal principles, health, learning, mastery, integrity, it becomes intrinsically motivating. Ask why each routine exists and what future self it serves. The routine becomes a bridge between present action and future outcomes. Without this alignment, even disciplined routines can feel hollow and fail to produce meaningful transformation. Incorporate recovery and reflection periods within routines. Growth is not relentless effort. It is effort balanced with rest. Mental, emotional, and physical recovery are essential. Design routines to include pauses, short breaks, or light days that allow the mind and body to absorb the benefits of practice. Reflection can occur daily, weekly, or monthly, and should involve honest assessment of progress, challenges, and adjustments needed. These pauses sharpen focus, reinforce learning, and prevent burnout. Routine growth is not speed, it is sustainable acceleration. Combine routines with deliberate skill development. Growth routines are more than habits. They are scaffolds for competence. Identify high-leverage skills and embed them in daily practice. Writing, coding, language learning, public speaking, analytical thinking, and creative exercises can all be integrated. Avoid spreading focus across too many areas. Depth in selected skills yields exponential returns. The combination of routine and focused skill practice produces measurable advancement over months and years, translating daily actions into tangible mastery. Measure results to maintain motivation. Track not only completion, but outcomes. Routines alone do not guarantee growth. The effects of routines matter. Use simple metrics: pages read, workouts completed, hours focused, projects progressed, new skills practiced. Review weekly, compare with previous weeks, celebrate improvement, identify bottlenecks, and adjust routines for maximum effectiveness. Measurement creates awareness of progress, reducing the temptation to abandon routines due to delayed gratification. Growth is amplified when the mind can see evidence of its own investment. Routines should stimulate both discipline and curiosity. Repetition builds resilience. Curiosity sustains engagement. Include variety within the framework. A new exercise, a new book, a new approach to problem solving. Novelty prevents stagnation, while consistency ensures momentum. A carefully designed routine balances repetition and discovery, keeping the mind engaged while training the body and willpower. Growth is sustained when the process feels alive, not mechanical. Anchor routines to the senses to reinforce memory and habit. Use environmental cues, sounds, smells, or visual triggers. A specific playlist signals focus time. A scented candle indicates reading or reflection. Physical markers like a yoga mat or a dedicated chair create automatic signals for the brain. Sensory anchors reduce mental friction and increase adherence. Over time, the routine becomes almost automatic because the mind links context to action, freeing conscious energy for deeper engagement. Finally, growth routines cultivate identity. You do not grow by random effort. You grow by becoming someone who shows up every day, who invests in skill, health, and wisdom. Each routine embeds a narrative. I am disciplined. I am committed. I pursue mastery. This internalized identity is stronger than motivation. Motivation fluctuates. Identity endures. By building routines that support growth, each day reinforces this identity, compounding into a life defined by deliberate improvement and sustained achievement. Commit to one immediate action. Select one growth area and design a minimal, repeatable daily routine around it. Decide when, where, and how the routine will occur. Prepare the environment tonight. Execute the routine tomorrow. Track completion. Reflect briefly on its impact. Repeat consistently for 30 days. Within 1 month, the smallest routine will produce tangible evidence of progress, reinforcing belief in your capacity for deliberate self-improvement. This simple act begins the lifelong cycle of growth that routines make possible. Growth routines are not glamorous. They do not require bursts of inspiration or dramatic effort. They require patience, planning, and presence. Over time, however, the disciplined design of daily action produces results far beyond what sporadic effort ever achieves. Building routines that support growth transforms not just what you do, but who you become, embedding progress into the very structure of life. The power lies in consistency, in repetition, and in aligning small actions with the highest priority. A life shaped by intentional routines is a life that moves steadily, quietly, and inexorably toward mastery, meaning, and fulfillment. Number 3. Track habits and review progress. Tracking habits and reviewing progress is one of the most powerful tools for transformation because it converts vague intentions into concrete, measurable reality. Without observation, growth remains abstract, easy to ignore, and impossible to refine. Most people fail not because they lack potential, but because they do not see clearly where their energy goes, which behaviors compound toward improvement, and which habits quietly erode time and focus. Recording, reviewing, and analyzing your actions daily creates accountability to yourself, clarifies priorities, and illuminates the path toward consistent personal growth. Begin by defining what matters most. Identify the core habits that drive progress in your life. These are not every small action, but the few behaviors that produce outsized results. It could be reading daily, practicing a skill, maintaining physical fitness, journaling, budgeting, or practicing mindfulness. Each habit should align with a goal that moves you closer to the person you intend to become. Clarity about what counts ensures that tracking does not become tedious or superficial, but becomes a mirror reflecting meaningful action. Use a simple, consistent method for tracking. Complicated systems often fail because they add friction. A notebook, spreadsheet, or habit tracking app is sufficient if used consistently. Record the habit, the time it was performed, and any immediate notes about the experience. For example, after a workout, note energy levels or strength improvements. After a reading session, jot down one key takeaway or insight. Recording in this way turns passive effort into active evidence, giving life to what would otherwise disappear into the void of forgotten actions. Break down habits into measurable components. Instead of vague intentions like exercise more, define specific observable actions, push-ups, minutes of cardio, steps walked, or a particular yoga sequence. Replace eat healthier with measurable indicators such as servings of vegetables or water intake. Measurement creates clarity. When actions are defined precisely, the mind knows exactly what success looks like. Small, quantifiable wins build momentum and allow for tracking trends over weeks and months, reinforcing confidence and motivation. Daily tracking alone is not enough without periodic review. Set aside time weekly to analyze patterns. Ask questions like, which habits were consistent? Which habits faltered and why? Did certain routines complement or conflict with each other? What environmental or emotional triggers influenced behavior? This reflection is not for self-criticism, but for insight. Understanding patterns allows for refinement. When habits are misaligned or ineffective, adjustments can be made before they solidify into long-term obstacles. Include both quantitative and qualitative notes. Numbers reveal frequency, duration, and completion, while qualitative reflections capture energy, focus, and emotional response. Both are necessary. A habit may be performed consistently, but if it leaves you drained or disengaged, the method might require adjustment. Alternatively, a habit may be irregular but profoundly impactful on motivation or skill acquisition. By tracking both dimensions, you develop a richer understanding of your progress and a nuanced view of growth beyond simple metrics. Visual cues accelerate tracking effectiveness. Charts, check marks, or color coding create immediate feedback and psychological reinforcement. The brain responds strongly to visible evidence of achievement. A habit streak, even a small one, becomes motivating because it signals consistency and commitment. This visual representation reduces reliance on memory, which is often faulty or biased, and converts abstract effort into tangible proof. When streaks break, it becomes easier to notice and correct behavior early, rather than letting lapses snowball. Recognize the compound effect. Habits are not isolated. They accumulate and interact. Tracking reveals these interactions. Completing a workout consistently may improve sleep, which enhances focus during work, which increases learning capacity. Missing one habit can create a ripple effect. Recording and reviewing allows you to see these connections, strengthening the understanding that habits are investments. Each repetition is a deposit in the bank of long-term competence, health, and mental clarity. Incorporate accountability through sharing selectively. Reporting progress to a mentor, peer, or group adds an external layer of consistency. It is not about seeking validation, but about reinforcing commitment. The awareness that actions are visible to others encourages discipline, especially during periods when intrinsic motivation wanes. Coupled with internal tracking, this combination of self-monitoring and external accountability dramatically increases follow-through and sharpens awareness of progress. Adjust goals based on evidence. Tracking is not just about recording, it is about iterating. If a habit is not producing desired results, modify it. If tracking reveals a plateau, increase intensity or duration. If consistency is low, reduce complexity or adjust timing. Progress is rarely linear, but deliberate reflection on recorded data allows course correction. Without this feedback loop, effort may continue without benefit. Growth demands not blind perseverance, but strategic adjustment based on real evidence of what works. Incorporate mindfulness into the tracking process. Note how you feel before and after habits. Awareness of mental and emotional state during habit execution provides deeper insight into which actions truly serve growth and which create unnecessary friction. Mindful tracking also strengthens attention and reduces autopilot behavior, ensuring habits remain deliberate rather than mechanical. Over time, this practice trains the mind to recognize the subtle effects of daily actions on overall well-being and productivity. Celebrate progress without attachment to perfection. Tracking highlights both success and failure. Recognize streaks, improvements, and consistency. Reward yourself in small, meaningful ways when milestones are reached. This reinforcement increases motivation and satisfaction, but it must be balanced with detachment from outcome to avoid complacency. Stoic growth focuses on consistent effort, learning, and self-mastery rather than chasing external accolades. Recognition of progress strengthens identity as a person committed to growth, reinforcing the internal narrative that fuels persistence. Create layered tracking for long-term habits. Use multiple levels of observation, daily completion, weekly summary, monthly trends, and quarterly reflection. This multi-layered approach provides immediate feedback for behavior adjustment, intermediate reinforcement of momentum, and long-term perspective on cumulative growth. Monthly and quarterly reviews allow for strategic planning, identifying which habits should be strengthened, replaced, or combined. This bird's-eye view prevents small setbacks from derailing momentum and fosters resilience over time. Identify triggers and obstacles. Tracking uncovers hidden patterns that affect consistency. Notice times of day when habits are skipped, environmental conditions that hinder practice, or emotional states that sabotage action. By recording these factors, actionable adjustments can be made, change the location, modify timing, or implement a small preparatory step to reduce friction. Understanding the why behind lapses transforms tracking from passive observation into proactive problem solving. Anchor habits to existing routines for easier integration. Habits are more likely to persist when tied to actions that already occur reliably. This reduces cognitive load and increases automaticity. For instance, pairing stretching with brushing teeth or journaling immediately after morning coffee creates a natural cue. Tracking these anchors ensures that habits remain connected to life's rhythms, reinforcing stability while minimizing resistance to change. Use negative tracking strategically. Occasionally record behaviors to eliminate or reduce procrastination, unhealthy eating, excessive screen time, or impulsive spending. Observing and measuring these behaviors increases awareness and facilitates control. Reflection on avoidance habits provides insight into triggers, emotional patterns, and environmental factors that undermine growth. Negative tracking complements positive habits by clarifying which actions should be minimized or replaced. Review and refine goals iteratively. Recorded progress serves as a foundation for strategic adjustment. If a habit consistently underperforms, consider its relevance or execution method. If it consistently succeeds, identify opportunities to scale or deepen its impact. Iterative refinement ensures that effort remains aligned with the highest priority outcomes, maximizing return on attention and energy. Habit tracking without review is static. Review transforms it into an evolving growth system. Finally, tracking habits and reviewing progress cultivates self-awareness, accountability, and mastery. It transforms vague intentions into structured, observable action. It teaches patience, encourages reflection, and embeds discipline into daily life. Each recorded habit is a testament to the effort invested, and each review session illuminates the path ahead. Through this practice, incremental improvements accumulate into significant, measurable growth. The process becomes a mirror reflecting effort, revealing patterns, and guiding strategic adjustment. By committing to track habits and review progress diligently, the ordinary day transforms into a deliberate, meaningful investment in personal evolution, ensuring that each action contributes purposefully toward a stronger, more capable, and more intentional self. Number 4. Choose learning over constant entertainment. Choosing learning over constant entertainment is one of the most transformative decisions a person can make. In modern life, entertainment is engineered to capture attention, stimulate emotion, and create habitual distraction. Every beep, notification, and scroll competes with the deliberate cultivation of knowledge, skill, and understanding. A life spent chasing constant amusement may feel lively on the surface, but gradually erodes depth, creativity, and purpose. Deliberately prioritizing learning requires conscious choice, daily practice, and a willingness to trade short-term pleasure for long-term capability. Begin by recognizing the cost of entertainment. Hours spent scrolling through feeds, watching videos, or consuming trivial content may feel harmless, but they accumulate into a significant drain on mental energy. Time spent on passive amusement cannot be reclaimed. Beyond time, it fragments attention, dulls curiosity, and fosters a reactive mind that seeks constant stimulation. Awareness of this cost is critical. The brain adapts to what it experiences most. Prioritizing learning reorients the mind from passive reception to active engagement, strengthening focus, resilience, and critical thinking. Develop a clear definition of learning for yourself. Learning is not limited to formal education or structured courses. It encompasses skill acquisition, critical thinking, reflection, and deep reading. It is any action that expands competence, enriches understanding, or strengthens judgment. Before choosing a book, lecture, or practice session, evaluate whether it moves you toward a goal or builds meaningful capacity. Deliberate learning is purposeful. Entertainment is often superficial. The distinction lies in the effect. Does this action make me stronger, wiser, or more capable? Or does it merely fill time with fleeting distraction? Structure your day around high-value learning sessions. Just as meals nourish the body, dedicated learning sessions nourish the mind. Set aside blocks of time free from notifications, interruptions, or superficial tasks. Begin with 20 to 30 minutes if starting from low focus, gradually increasing duration. Use these sessions to read, practice a skill, analyze problems, or reflect. The brain requires uninterrupted attention to absorb complex ideas. Fragmented or distracted exposure produces minimal retention. Discipline in allocating time ensures consistent intellectual growth and minimizes the temptation to drift toward entertainment. Curate learning materials intentionally. Quality matters more than quantity. Choose sources that challenge thinking, teach practical skills, or provide deep insight. Avoid passive consumption disguised as learning. Articles with superficial content, videos with entertainment value but little depth, or podcasts that prioritize opinion over evidence. The principle is clarity of purpose. Each source should produce observable improvement, whether in knowledge, skill, or perspective. A focused library of meaningful materials is far more valuable than consuming content endlessly without direction. Balance passive and active learning. Reading and listening expand exposure, but reflection and practice solidify understanding. After reading a chapter, summarize it in your own words, note actionable steps, or apply the lesson in a small experiment. After a video or lecture, ask critical questions. How does this connect to what I already know? What assumptions are made? How can I implement these insights? Active engagement transforms information into usable skill, turning abstract ideas into practical growth. Reduce passive consumption gradually. Entertainment is often habitual, filling gaps in boredom or stress. Identify specific habits that waste attention and replace them with purposeful learning. Instead of watching a random video after lunch, spend 10 minutes reviewing notes or practicing a skill. Replace endless scrolling with reading a few pages of a book or reflecting on a complex idea. Small, deliberate substitutions accumulate over time. The shift is not instantaneous. It is iterative, building momentum and reinforcing identity as a learner rather than a consumer. Use accountability to sustain focus. Share learning goals with a mentor, peer, or community. Schedule discussions about topics studied, progress made, or skills practiced. External visibility strengthens commitment, while discussion consolidates understanding. Teaching or explaining what is learned to another person multiplies retention and insight. Accountability transforms private effort into a structured system of reinforcement, reducing the likelihood of slipping back into passive entertainment. Track and measure growth. Set specific, measurable targets for learning, pages read per week, skills practiced per day, or concepts mastered per month. Recording progress creates visible evidence of improvement, reinforcing effort. Track not only completion but also depth. Summarize insights gained, note challenges encountered, and reflect on application. Measurement provides feedback, enabling refinement and strategic adjustment. Without tracking, learning can drift towards superficiality, resembling consumption rather than mastery. Incorporate learning into daily routines naturally. Anchor intellectual growth to existing habits. Read a book during breakfast, listen to an educational audio while commuting, write reflections before sleep. Integration reduces friction and ensures consistent exposure. Small, repeated interactions with challenging material compound over time. A deliberate schedule, combined with habit stacking, ensures learning is not optional but embedded in daily life. Over weeks and months, the accumulation of small sessions produces profound improvement in skill, knowledge, and perspective. Design challenges to deepen learning. Passive absorption is insufficient for meaningful growth. Create small experiments, projects, or exercises to apply knowledge. If learning a language, write a short essay or speak aloud daily. If reading about business strategy, analyze a real-world company and draft a plan. If developing emotional intelligence, practice structured reflection on daily interactions. The mind internalizes learning most effectively through application, making knowledge actionable rather than theoretical. Challenges increase engagement, test understanding, and produce tangible outcomes. Minimize environmental distractions. Learning thrives in quiet, organized spaces. Remove phones, social media, and unnecessary noise during study or practice. The quality of focus determines the depth of comprehension. Even brief interruptions reduce retention and increase cognitive fatigue. Create a physical and mental environment that signals commitment. A dedicated study corner, tools ready at hand, and a clear boundary that others recognize. Protecting the learning environment reinforces habits and supports sustained attention. Cultivate curiosity intentionally. Curiosity is the engine of active learning. Ask why, how, and what if. Explore topics beyond immediate necessity to develop a wider perspective. Learning driven by genuine interest is more memorable and more likely to translate into practical application. Avoid surface-level curiosity that leads only to entertainment. Aim for questions that require effortful engagement and critical thinking. Deep curiosity sustains attention, fuels intrinsic motivation, and transforms education into an ongoing adventure rather than a duty. Reflect consistently on what is learned. Daily or weekly reflection turns experiences into insight. Review notes, revisit concepts, and ask, how can I use this today? What did I misunderstand? What requires deeper exploration? Reflection bridges the gap between knowledge and wisdom, ensuring that learning translates into improved judgment and decision-making. Without reflection, even intense study risks remaining isolated, disconnected from real-life application. Recognize the long-term payoff. Learning compounds over months and years, producing benefits far beyond immediate gratification. Each hour spent mastering a skill, analyzing a concept, or expanding understanding strengthens capabilities, improves problem-solving, and enhances adaptability. Unlike entertainment, which provides temporary dopamine spikes, learning builds enduring resources that increase freedom, confidence, and resilience. The mind becomes sharper, the perspective broader, and the ability to influence reality more precise. Commit to incremental improvement daily. One focused hour of learning each day, consistently applied, produces substantial growth over time. Avoid trying to do too much at once. Small repeated investment compounds more reliably than sporadic effort. Establish a system where learning is habitual, measurable, and integrated into life. Over weeks, months, and years, the cumulative effect of daily commitment outstrips the superficial rewards of constant entertainment, creating a life of skill, wisdom, and intentional capability. Finally, choose learning deliberately, consistently, and unapologetically. Entertainment will always beckon with instant gratification and effortless pleasure. Learning requires focus, effort, and patience, but it produces tools for freedom, mastery, and meaningful influence. By consciously prioritizing growth, replacing passive amusement with active acquisition, and integrating deliberate practice into daily life, every day becomes an opportunity to expand potential. The path is not easy, but the reward is a mind capable of depth, insight, and practical power that entertainment alone can never provide. Each choice to learn over distraction is an investment in competence, resilience, and enduring self-mastery, shaping a life that moves steadily toward purpose, mastery, and fulfillment. Number 5. Prioritize health before every goal. Prioritizing health before every goal is the foundation of sustained achievement and meaningful growth. Without physical, mental, and emotional wellness, progress in any area becomes fragile, inconsistent, and limited. Health is not merely a tool to be used when convenient. It is the platform upon which all other goals are built. Every ambition, professional success, skill mastery, financial independence, or personal development relies on energy, clarity, and resilience, all of which are nurtured through deliberate attention to health. Ignoring this principle leads to burnout, decreased performance, and frustration despite effort. Begin by recognizing health as a non-negotiable resource. Energy levels, mental clarity, and emotional stability are directly influenced by nutrition, sleep, physical activity, and stress management. High performance is not achieved by willpower alone. It is supported by the consistent replenishment of these resources. Each goal becomes attainable only when the body and mind are prepared to handle challenges. Viewing health as the first priority reframes daily decisions. Every meal, exercise session, and rest period becomes a strategic investment rather than a trivial choice. Sleep is one of the most overlooked components of health, but one of the most impactful. Prioritize consistent, restorative sleep before pushing toward productivity. Adequate rest supports memory consolidation, emotional regulation, immune function, and cognitive performance. Begin by establishing a fixed sleep schedule, aiming for 7 to 9 hours per night. Remove distractions from the bedroom, dim lights, and create a quiet environment. Avoid screens for at least an hour before bed to facilitate natural circadian rhythms. Treat sleep as a sacred investment rather than a negotiable convenience. Nutrition forms the second pillar of health. Fueling the body appropriately directly influences energy, focus, and endurance. Prioritize balanced meals with sufficient protein, healthy fats, and complex carbohydrates, while limiting processed sugars and empty calories. Hydration is equally critical. Even mild dehydration diminishes cognitive performance and physical stamina. Plan meals to ensure consistency and reduce decision fatigue. Simple adjustments, like meal prepping, reducing refined sugar, and incorporating vegetables into every meal, yield significant cumulative benefits over time. Physical activity is essential, not only for strength and endurance, but for mental resilience and stress reduction. Exercise improves circulation, enhances mood through endorphin release, sharpens focus, and protects long-term health. Prioritize movement daily, even if it begins with modest routines, a brisk walk, bodyweight exercises, stretching, or yoga. Consistency outweighs intensity in the early stages. Embedding exercise into routines creates habit and ensures that physical capacity grows alongside other personal or professional ambitions. Movement is not optional. It is a prerequisite for sustainable progress. Mental and emotional health requires equal attention. Cognitive performance, decision-making, and creativity deteriorate when stress, anxiety, or unresolved emotional tension accumulate. Daily practices, such as meditation, journaling, or mindfulness exercises, help regulate stress and clarify priorities. Schedule brief moments of reflection or breathing exercises throughout the day to prevent mental fatigue. Recognize emotional patterns that undermine focus or productivity and develop strategies to manage them proactively. Emotional resilience supports long-term goal attainment and enhances overall life satisfaction. Set boundaries that protect health. Many people sacrifice rest, nutrition, and exercise in the pursuit of external goals, believing that success requires constant output. In reality, consistent achievement depends on protecting energy and recovery. Learn to say no to commitments that interfere with sleep, movement, or nutrition. Allocate time for health first, then layer work, learning, and skill development around it. By doing so, the body and mind remain capable of sustained effort, making other goals achievable without compromise. Integrate health into routines rather than treating it as an isolated task. Anchor exercise to morning rituals, schedule meals at regular intervals, and design bedtime routines that support restorative sleep. Consistency reduces friction and strengthens adherence. Habits related to health compound over time, producing exponential returns in energy, endurance, and resilience. Small, repeated actions, walking daily, preparing balanced meals, practicing deep breathing, build a foundation that supports all other ambitions without relying on bursts of motivation. Monitor and adjust health practices regularly. Tracking sleep quality, energy levels, nutrition, and exercise performance provides feedback for refinement. Pay attention to patterns that reveal strengths and weaknesses. If energy dips at certain times of day, adjust meal composition, hydration, or movement. If sleep is insufficient, modify bedtime routines or environmental factors. Health is dynamic. Deliberate observation allows for continuous improvement. This iterative approach ensures that the foundation remains strong as goals and demands evolve. Recognize the interdependence of health and productivity. Clear thinking, effective decision-making, and sustained creativity emerge naturally from a well-maintained body and mind. Prioritize tasks and goals based on energy availability. Tackle high cognitive load projects when alert and physically prepared. Aligning peak performance windows with important work maximizes output while preserving health. Ignoring these connections results in diminished returns, despite long hours or effort, emphasizing the need to honor physiological and mental limits. Develop resilience through preventative care, regular health checkups, stretching routines, and injury prevention strategies protect long-term performance. Prevention is more effective than correction. By addressing minor issues proactively, larger disruptions to productivity and well-being are avoided. Small, consistent actions like maintaining mobility, monitoring vital signs, or incorporating warm-up exercises prevent setbacks that can derail goals. Health maintenance is not reactive. It is strategic, deliberate, and continuous. Embrace a holistic view of health. Physical fitness, mental clarity, emotional stability, and social connection are interconnected. Neglecting one area undermines the others. Engage in activities that strengthen multiple dimensions simultaneously. Group exercise can improve both physical health and social interaction. Mindful movement practices like yoga or martial arts develop body awareness, strength, and emotional regulation. This integrated approach ensures that health is not compartmentalized, but operates synergistically, enhancing overall capacity to pursue goals effectively. Recognize that prioritizing health enhances decision-making and self-discipline. When the body and mind are nourished and rested, resisting temptation, maintaining focus, and executing plans becomes easier. Poor health weakens willpower and amplifies susceptibility to distractions, procrastination, and burnout. Strength in the body and clarity in the mind create the conditions under which consistent, deliberate action is sustainable. Health is therefore not secondary but primary in achieving excellence in any domain. Embed reflection into health practices. Daily or weekly review of sleep patterns, nutrition, activity levels, and stress responses fosters awareness and adaptation. Journaling observations and linking them to performance or mood highlights cause and affect relationships. Reflection ensures that habits are not blindly maintained, but consciously aligned with goals. Awareness of patterns reinforces accountability and enables strategic adjustment, ensuring that health investments produce measurable improvement and support broader objectives. Consider health as a competitive advantage rather than a burden. While many sacrifice well-being for immediate results, those who invest in sleep, nutrition, movement, and mental clarity gain sustained energy, sharper cognition, and resilience. This advantage compounds over time, producing greater capacity, endurance, and effectiveness than effort alone can achieve. Goals pursued without health are vulnerable to collapse. Goals built on a foundation of wellness are resilient, sustainable, and scalable. Finally, commit to health as the first and non-negotiable priority. Align daily routines, decisions, and commitments to support physical, mental, and emotional well-being. Accept that progress in any other area depends on this foundation. Small, consistent actions, sleep, nutrition, movement, mindfulness, accumulate into energy, focus, and resilience. Treat health as the platform on which all achievement is built, not as an optional accessory. By prioritizing wellness before every goal, every effort becomes more effective, every challenge more manageable, and every accomplishment more meaningful. A life in which health comes first is a life of sustainable growth, heightened capacity, and enduring fulfillment. Number 6, create boundaries that guard energy. Creating boundaries that guard energy is one of the most essential practices for living a life of focus, resilience, and purpose. Energy is the currency through which everything in life is accomplished. Every action, decision, and moment of attention draws from this finite resource. Without clear boundaries, energy is fragmented, constantly siphoned off by demands, distractions, and obligations that do not align with goals. Boundaries are not barriers meant to isolate. They are instruments of preservation, protection, and empowerment, ensuring that what matters most receives consistent, unfragmented energy. Start by observing where energy is currently being lost. Notice how you feel at the end of a typical day, which interactions leave you drained, which tasks sap focus and motivation. How often do minor interruptions derail your flow? Identify patterns, both in external demands and internal habits, that lead to exhaustion or diminished performance. Awareness is the first step. You cannot protect what you cannot measure. By tracking moments of depletion, you gain clarity on where boundaries are needed most. Understand that energy loss is not always obvious. It is easy to overextend in ways that seem productive, but are actually wasteful. Meetings without clear purpose, endless notifications, casual gossip, or unstructured multitasking can all erode capacity silently. Emotional energy is equally fragile. Unresolved conflict, negative self-talk, or constant exposure to toxic influences diminishes resilience. Recognizing these subtleties allows for more deliberate intervention, so boundaries are applied strategically rather than reactively. Define your non-negotiable priorities. Boundaries are effective only when they protect something specific. Determine the activities, relationships, and projects that require focused energy. Core goals, meaningful work, physical and mental health, and personal relationships deserve special protection. Anything outside of these priorities should be secondary, delegated, postponed, or minimized. Boundaries are less about restriction and more about directing energy toward high-value areas. Clarity of purpose makes boundary enforcement both rational and sustainable. Communicate boundaries clearly and respectfully. People often misunderstand protective measures as rejection or inflexibility. State your limits with firm but polite language. For example, designate times when you are unavailable for calls or meetings. Explain that certain periods are reserved for focused work, or outline acceptable modes of communication. Clear communication reduces friction and misunderstandings while reinforcing personal responsibility for energy management. Boundaries are most effective when others know and respect them. Use environmental design to reinforce limits. Physical spaces influence energy allocation. Create zones dedicated to work, rest, or reflection, free from distractions that fragment attention. Organize tools and resources so that effort is directed toward meaningful activity, rather than constant recovery from clutter. Environmental cues signal the mind about expected behavior, reducing decision fatigue and conserving mental energy. This approach ensures that boundaries are maintained without relying solely on willpower. Schedule recovery and downtime intentionally. Boundaries are not only about saying no to external demands, but also about saying yes to restoration. Block periods for rest, reflection, and rejuvenation. Treat these times as sacred commitments, not optional gaps. Adequate recovery protects cognitive, emotional, and physical energy, enabling sustained engagement in high-priority activities. Skipping recovery in favor of constant output leads to depletion, reducing overall effectiveness and undermining the very goals boundaries are meant to protect. Learn to manage digital distractions. Technology is a major source of energy leakage. Notifications, endless scrolling, and unstructured digital engagement fragment attention. Set limits on device usage, disable non-essential alerts, and create designated windows for checking messages or social media. Consider using Do Not Disturb modes or app blockers during focus periods. By regulating digital input, energy is conserved for tasks that require deep engagement and deliberate decision-making, ensuring that focus remains aligned with priorities. Establish boundaries around social interactions. Relationships are essential but can become draining when energy is overextended. Prioritize interactions that are mutually supportive, meaningful, and uplifting. Limit time spent with individuals or groups that consistently demand emotional or cognitive resources without reciprocation. Learn to exit conversations or situations gracefully when they become overwhelming. Protecting social energy ensures that interactions contribute positively to life rather than fragment focus or diminish motivation. Implement clear rules for work and productivity. Overcommitment is a frequent cause of energy depletion. Set realistic limits on hours, projects, and responsibilities. Prioritize tasks using a system that differentiates between urgent, important, and optional activities. Learn to delegate when possible and refuse requests that do not align with goals or values. Structuring work with boundaries reduces decision fatigue, prevents burnout, and ensures consistent output over time. Boundaries make focused effort sustainable rather than sporadic and reactive. Use temporal boundaries to enhance effectiveness. Certain times of day are naturally better suited for high-energy tasks. Identify these windows and reserve them for work that requires focus, creativity, or problem-solving. Schedule lower-energy tasks, like routine correspondence or minor chores, during less optimal periods. Temporal organization maximizes efficiency while preserving peak energy for actions that produce the greatest impact. The strategic allocation of time is a powerful boundary that prevents dispersion of limited resources. Develop emotional boundaries for resilience. Protecting energy includes managing internal states, limit engagement with negative self-talk, excessive worry, or intrusive doubts. Practice techniques like journaling, mindfulness, or reflection to process emotions constructively. Emotional boundaries do not suppress feelings, but regulate their impact on energy and decision-making. By maintaining composure and clarity, mental and emotional resources are preserved for meaningful action rather than being depleted by internal turbulence. Review and adjust boundaries regularly. Energy needs and life circumstances evolve. Periodically evaluate which boundaries are effective and which require reinforcement or adjustment. Reflect on instances of depletion or overextension and ask, could this have been prevented with a clearer limit? Adjustments should be proactive, not reactive, ensuring that energy protection remains aligned with changing priorities and responsibilities. Continuous refinement strengthens both effectiveness and sustainability of boundaries. Combine physical, mental, and social boundaries for synergy. Energy flows between body, mind, and social interaction. Neglecting one area undermines others. Ensure sleep, nutrition, and exercise support sustained engagement. Maintain focus through environmental and temporal organization. Protect social and emotional reserves through selective interaction. Integrated boundaries across these dimensions create a resilient, high-functioning system capable of consistent performance, creative output, and personal growth. Practice saying no deliberately and without guilt. Overextension often results from an inability to refuse requests or obligations that conflict with energy priorities. Learn to evaluate commitments quickly and assertively. Each refusal protects a tangible resource, energy, without undermining relationships. When communicated thoughtfully, saying no becomes a strategic tool for aligning effort with purpose, reinforcing discipline, and ensuring sustained capability over time. Anchor boundaries to identity and values. Protecting energy is not a mechanical task. It is a reflection of who you are and what you stand for. Viewing boundaries as expressions of self-respect and commitment to purpose reinforces adherence. The stronger the connection between limits and identity, the less reliance on external enforcement or willpower. Boundaries become intuitive and self-reinforcing, guiding daily decisions toward preservation of focus and strength. Finally, committing to boundaries transforms life from reactive to deliberate. Energy is finite, attention is precious, and the demands of life are constant. Without protective measures, the most valuable resources are wasted on trivialities, leaving insufficient reserves for meaningful action. By observing patterns of depletion, defining priorities, communicating limits, structuring environments, managing digital and social inputs, and reinforcing habits of restoration, energy is safeguarded. Boundaries empower consistent focus, sustainable effort, and intentional living. Guarding energy is not selfish. It is strategic. It creates the foundation for every achievement, every relationship, and every moment of purpose, ensuring that potential is not squandered, but deployed with precision, clarity, and sustained force. Number 7. Replace excuses with small actions. Replacing excuses with small actions is the cornerstone of consistent progress. Excuses are the mental barriers that prevent potential from manifesting. They are often disguised as valid reasons, rationalizations, or explanations for inaction. Each excuse, no matter how reasonable it seems in the moment, represents a missed opportunity, a postponed improvement, and a moment where potential could have been converted into reality. Transformation begins when excuses are identified, confronted, and replaced with deliberate, manageable action. Start by observing the patterns of excuses in daily life. Notice when hesitation arises, when tasks are delayed, or when justifications appear. These moments are signals that fear, discomfort, or uncertainty is interfering with growth. Excuses often surface in areas that challenge identity or demand effort beyond current comfort. Awareness is the first step toward dismantling them because unrecognized excuses operate unconsciously, shaping behavior without conscious control. Recognizing them allows conscious intervention. Shift perspective to prioritize action over perfection. Excuses often thrive in the gap between intention and execution, fueled by the belief that conditions must be ideal. Waiting for the perfect time, mood, or circumstances delays progress indefinitely. Small actions, even imperfect, break inertia and create momentum. 10 minutes of focused effort, a single completed task, or a brief step toward a larger goal can dismantle the grip of excuses. Action, however minor, transforms abstract intention into tangible progress. Break large goals into micro steps. Excuses are frequently triggered by the overwhelming scale of an objective. A project, habit, or skill may appear too daunting to begin, prompting rationalizations for delay. By dividing goals into the smallest possible actionable pieces, hesitation is minimized. A single paragraph written, a single set of exercises completed, or one phone call made represents measurable progress. The brain interprets action as achievable, reinforcing capability and reducing resistance. Small steps compound over time into substantial achievement. Replace the internal dialogue of justification with statements of commitment. Excuses are reinforced by language. I can't because, I don't have time, or it's too late. These thoughts perpetuate inaction. Replace them with clear, actionable alternatives. I will complete this one step. I will spend 10 minutes on it now, or I will start with the smallest possible action. Words shape reality. Shifting language from excuse to commitment rewires thought patterns and initiates follow-through. Anchor action in routines and environmental cues. Habits reduce reliance on motivation and bypass the space where excuses arise. Set up triggers that automatically prompt small actions. For instance, place workout clothes by the bed to initiate morning exercise. Leave a book on a chair to prompt reading, or set reminders to complete focused work sessions. By embedding action into context, excuses are neutralized before they even have the chance to form. The environment supports behavior, reducing friction and the mental negotiation that fuels rationalization. Prioritize immediacy over duration. One common excuse is the perceived lack of time. Counter this by committing to action for the minimum effective duration. 2 minutes of meditation, 5 push-ups, or a short reflection session can be enough to create a habit and initiate progress. These brief actions often expand naturally once begun. The initial act, however small, breaks the cycle of procrastination and excuses, demonstrating that starting is always possible, regardless of external constraints. Track small wins consistently. Recording progress, even minor steps, provides visible evidence of capability. Each completed action, no matter how tiny, disproves the narrative that excuses rely upon. Seeing the accumulation of small efforts reinforces identity as someone who takes action rather than postpones it. Tracking also illuminates patterns where excuses frequently appear, allowing preemptive strategies to counteract them in the future. Small wins compound, creating both momentum and confidence. Anticipate common excuses in advance. Forethought allows preparation rather than reaction. Identify areas where hesitation is likely: fatigue, uncertainty, lack of resources, or fear of failure. Develop a concrete micro-action plan for each scenario. For example, when too tired to exercise, commit to stretching for 3 minutes. When overwhelmed by a project, commit to reading a single page or making one call. Predefined alternatives prevent excuses from becoming default behavior, ensuring action remains consistent under variable circumstances. Practice accountability, both internal and external. Sharing goals with a peer, mentor, or support system creates pressure to follow through. Accountability reduces rationalization by introducing visibility and reinforcement. Internal accountability can be reinforced through habit tracking, journaling, or marking actions completed. Each recorded step provides feedback, allowing reflection on progress and adjustments to strategy. External accountability strengthens commitment, ensuring excuses face tangible resistance from both self and community. Reframe discomfort as opportunity. Excuses often arise when tasks require effort or confront fear. Physical exertion, mental challenge, or emotional exposure triggers hesitation. Redefining these sensations as signals of growth transforms resistance into motivation. Discomfort becomes a sign that meaningful action is occurring, not a reason to delay. Approaching challenge with this perspective shifts energy from avoidance to engagement, diminishing the hold of excuses and increasing resilience over time. Observe the emotional patterns linked to excuses. Stress, fatigue, boredom, or insecurity frequently precede rationalization. By understanding these triggers, it becomes possible to intervene strategically. Implement small actions that require minimal effort but signal forward movement, such as drafting an outline, taking a single note, or performing a brief stretch. Recognizing emotional precursors allows preemptive micro-actions, ensuring energy is directed toward growth rather than dissipated in justification. Reinforce identity through repeated action. Consistency in small steps solidifies self-perception as someone who does rather than postpones. Excuses lose their power when behavior contradicts them. Each instance of initiating action, no matter the scale, strengthens the internal narrative of competence, discipline, and reliability. Over time, identity becomes anchored in action, and rationalizations become increasingly irrelevant because the mind defaults to doing rather than delaying. Incorporate reflection to consolidate learning. After taking small steps, review what worked, what felt difficult, and what can be adjusted. Reflection turns action into insight and prevents repeated reliance on excuses. It also fosters problem-solving skills, adaptability, and strategic thinking. By pairing execution with reflection, action becomes purposeful rather than reactive, further reducing opportunities for rationalization and reinforcing consistent forward movement. Leverage momentum from small actions. Each step taken increases energy, confidence, and motivation for subsequent actions. Beginning with minor manageable tasks often leads to naturally larger commitments. Momentum is the antidote to excuses. Once movement is initiated, hesitation diminishes. Small actions are not trivial. They are catalysts for ongoing productivity, skill development, and personal growth, creating a chain reaction that multiplies results. Finally, commit to replacing excuses with consistent, deliberate small actions. Transformation is not dependent on grand gestures or perfect conditions. It is the accumulation of repeated microsteps that dismantles rationalization, reinforces discipline, and produces measurable progress. Each moment of hesitation is an opportunity to act. Every minor achievement disproves the narrative of incapability. By focusing on what can be done immediately, consistently, and intentionally, excuses lose power, and momentum, mastery, and meaningful results become inevitable. The principle is simple: replace reasoning for inaction with deliberate, repeatable steps, and the life you seek unfolds one intentional action at a time. Number 8. Invest money into useful skills. Investing money into useful skills is one of the most reliable ways to increase personal value and create long-term opportunities. Unlike material possessions that depreciate or temporary pleasures that fade, skills compound over time, producing returns in knowledge, capability, and income potential. Financial investment in oneself is not a luxury. It is a strategic decision that separates those who grow and adapt from those who remain stagnant. Skill acquisition transforms money into leverage, giving the capacity to create, solve problems, and influence outcomes in ways that money alone cannot achieve. Begin by identifying high-impact skills that align with personal goals and market demand. These are abilities that either increase earning potential, enhance decision-making, or expand competence in critical areas of life. They can range from technical skills like programming, data analysis, or digital marketing, to soft skills like communication, negotiation, leadership, or critical thinking. Selecting relevant skills ensures that resources are not wasted on trivial or irrelevant learning, but are directed toward areas that produce meaningful long-term returns. Prioritize learning methods that offer both depth and applicability. Books, online courses, workshops, mentorship, and practical exercises are all viable options, but their effectiveness varies based on engagement and practice opportunities. Focus on avenues that provide actionable knowledge, exercises, and feedback. Passive consumption, such as simply reading or watching videos, often leads to limited retention. Investing in structured learning experiences with accountability, real-world application, and guidance accelerates skill mastery and ensures that money spent produces measurable outcomes. Allocate a dedicated budget for skill development. Treat this allocation as a non-negotiable investment rather than discretionary spending. Just as businesses allocate capital to tools and training that increase efficiency and output, individuals should allocate resources to skills that enhance capability and potential. Even modest but consistent investment can accumulate into significant returns over time. The key is consistency and strategic allocation toward areas that align with long-term growth, rather than immediate gratification. Embrace mentorship and guidance. Paying for experienced instruction or coaching often accelerates learning beyond what self-study alone can achieve. A mentor provides insight, identifies blind spots, and offers practical strategies drawn from experience. This targeted guidance reduces trial and error, saving both time and money in the long run. When investing financially in skill acquisition, prioritizing sources that offer expertise, proven results, and actionable feedback maximizes the value of each dollar spent. Complement financial investment with time and effort. Money alone does not guarantee skill acquisition. Effort and deliberate practice are essential. Allocate focused periods to apply, experiment, and refine what is being learned. The combination of financial and temporal investment ensures that knowledge is internalized, skills become automatic, and capabilities translate into real-world competence. Each hour of dedicated practice multiplies the impact of the financial investment, producing returns that persist indefinitely. Adopt a growth-oriented mindset in spending. Viewing expenses on learning as temporary sacrifices with long-term returns changes the psychology of investment. Avoid the trap of seeing money spent on education as lost or indulgent. Instead, consider each payment as an asset that compounds over time, generating the ability to earn more, solve problems more effectively, and adapt to evolving circumstances. This perspective shifts priorities from immediate comfort to strategic self-enhancement. Diversify skill investments strategically. Just as a portfolio benefits from diversity, investing in a range of complementary skills reduces vulnerability and increases adaptability. Combine technical abilities with interpersonal or creative skills, for example, to increase overall value and flexibility. Diversification ensures that learning investments are not dependent on a single trend or opportunity, creating a robust foundation for growth, opportunity, and resilience in the face of changing circumstances. Track progress and evaluate returns. Investing in skills is not passive. Regular assessment ensures that effort and money produce measurable improvement. Set clear goals, milestones, and metrics to evaluate whether learning is translating into competence, efficiency, or increased opportunity. Regular review allows adjustments in strategy, prioritization, and further investment. Feedback loops ensure that each financial and time commitment compounds efficiently toward mastery rather than being spent without effect. Incorporate practical application early and often. Skills are most valuable when actively applied. Seek opportunities to use newly acquired abilities in real-world contexts, whether through projects, freelance work, personal ventures, or practice scenarios. Application reinforces retention, identifies areas needing improvement, and demonstrates tangible results. Investing in skills without practice limits returns, while applied learning transforms investment into functional capability and measurable impact. Consider opportunity cost in financial decisions. Money spent on non-essential goods or temporary pleasures often provides fleeting satisfaction, while funds allocated to skill acquisition yield sustained value. Prioritizing long-term benefits over immediate indulgence requires discipline, but the compounding effect of skill development produces returns that outweigh short-term gratification. Evaluating spending through this lens ensures that resources support growth rather than consumption alone. Leverage free or low-cost resources strategically. While financial investment accelerates learning, numerous affordable or free tools, libraries, online tutorials, community workshops can complement paid opportunities. Combining both approaches maximizes access while controlling costs. Focus money on areas where expert guidance, feedback, and structured learning offer the highest return, while using low-cost resources for reinforcement, practice, and exploration. This strategic combination ensures efficiency and breadth in skill development. Adopt a long-term perspective. Skill acquisition is not immediate. It compounds over months and years. Understand that financial investment today produces leverage for future earning, problem solving, and influence. This perspective fosters patience and consistency, reducing the temptation to abandon learning due to short-term discomfort or delayed results. Compounded skill growth generates a foundation for adaptability, confidence, and expanded opportunity that transcends immediate circumstances. Evaluate relevance and adaptability. The most valuable skills are those that maintain utility across changing environments. Invest in abilities that are foundational, transferable, and adaptable. Analytical thinking, effective communication, problem-solving, and technical competence often have cross-context applications, ensuring that financial and time investment remains valuable even as industries or circumstances shift. Choosing skills that endure enhances the long-term return on investment and ensures sustained personal growth. Foster accountability and investment. Set goals for learning outcomes, schedule milestones, and monitor progression. Sharing intentions with a mentor, peer group, or coach increases follow-through and maximizes return on resources. Accountability ensures that money invested produces results rather than remaining a passive expenditure. Structured evaluation transforms the investment into a measurable trajectory of skill, confidence, and competence. Integrate skill development to daily routines. Continuous learning becomes habitual when incorporated into regular schedules. Allocate specific times for practice, reflection, and study. Routine integration ensures consistency, reduces procrastination, and maximizes the impact of financial investment. The combination of structured practice, deliberate learning, and incremental improvement compounds over time, producing mastery and adaptability that persist long after initial investment. Recognize the psychological benefits of investing in skills. Financial commitment reinforces seriousness, accountability, and motivation. Paying for education or tools often increases engagement, commitment, and follow-through compared to free or casual exploration. Investment signals priority, transforming intent into tangible action. Each financial expenditure becomes a marker of dedication, strengthening mindset, focus, and consistency in pursuit of growth. Finally, understand that investing in useful skills is a multiplier of opportunity, income, and capability. Every dollar directed towards structured learning, mentorship, and practical application produces returns that cannot be reversed. Skills allow adaptation, innovation, and problem-solving in ways that passive consumption cannot match. By intentionally selecting, funding, and practicing skills aligned with long-term goals, financial resources transform into enduring leverage. This process converts money into competence, competence into opportunity, and opportunity into sustained growth, making investment in oneself the most reliable strategy for progress, influence, and personal mastery. Number 9. Spend mornings on personal goals. Spending mornings on personal goals is one of the most effective strategies for consistent growth and high achievement. Mornings are a unique window of time when mental clarity, energy, and focus are at their peak. The mind is relatively unburdened by the stress, distractions, and fatigue that accumulate throughout the day. Leveraging this period intentionally allows for the pursuit of meaningful work, personal development, and long-term ambitions before external demands begin to dominate attention. The morning becomes a sanctuary of progress, where deliberate effort compounds into lasting results. Begin by structuring the start of the day with purpose. Waking at a consistent time each morning signals the body and mind to enter a state of readiness. The routine itself becomes a cue for focus, reducing resistance to initiating action. Avoid immediately engaging in reactive behaviors such as checking emails, social media, or messages, which fragment attention and deplete energy. Instead, dedicate the first hours to tasks that directly contribute to personal goals. This intentional sequencing ensures that the most valuable hours are spent on high-priority work rather than responding to external pressures. Identify the most impactful personal goals for morning focus. These are goals that, when progressed consistently, produce significant transformation over time. Skill development, creative projects, exercise, writing, or planning are ideal examples. Prioritizing these objectives ensures that energy is applied where it yields the greatest long-term benefit. Smaller, urgent tasks can be deferred until later in the day, preventing distraction from what truly moves life forward. Clarity about which goals deserve morning focus is essential to maximize the return on time and effort. Design a morning routine that primes productivity and engagement. Begin with practices that energize the body and sharpen the mind. Physical movement, such as stretching, yoga, or light exercise, increases circulation and enhances cognitive function. Hydration and a balanced, simple breakfast provide fuel for sustained effort. Incorporate brief reflection or journaling to clarify priorities and intentions for the day. Preparing both body and mind in this way creates a foundation for focused work and reduces the likelihood of succumbing to procrastination or distraction. Protect this morning time through strict boundaries. Inform family, roommates, or colleagues of your commitment, and establish rules to minimize interruptions. Silence notifications, set devices aside, and create a dedicated workspace that signals focus. The first hours of the day are the most sensitive to energy depletion, and any compromise reduces effectiveness. Boundaries ensure that morning hours remain sacred and aligned with personal objectives, reinforcing the habit of consistent progress. Start with manageable actions to build momentum. Large projects can feel daunting early in the day, increasing the likelihood of avoidance. Break goals into small, actionable steps that can be completed in short, focused periods. Completing one concrete action provides immediate satisfaction and motivation to continue. Momentum from early achievement fuels further engagement, making it easier to sustain effort over extended periods. The compound effect of these small steps over weeks and months produces substantial growth. Incorporate reflection into morning sessions. Evaluate progress from previous days, noting successes, challenges, and adjustments required. This process aligns action with long-term objectives and ensures continuous improvement. Reflection transforms routine activity into deliberate practice, where learning, adaptation, and strategic adjustment occur alongside execution. By integrating insight with action, mornings become not only productive but also intelligently guided, increasing efficiency and effectiveness. Leverage the quiet and solitude of morning hours. Early mornings often provide the least external noise and distraction, creating an optimal environment for deep focus. Use this time for activities requiring concentration, problem-solving, or creative thought. Without competing demands, the brain can enter a state of flow more easily, producing higher quality output in less time. The stillness of morning is a resource. Using it intentionally amplifies both productivity and satisfaction. Integrate personal development into morning practices. Reading, skill acquisition, planning, or self-reflection are powerful ways to begin the day with growth-oriented activity. Choose materials and exercises that challenge thinking, expand knowledge, or develop new capabilities. The brain is most receptive to new input and complex problem-solving after sleep, making mornings ideal for learning and mastery. Investing in oneself during this window accelerates progress in ways that sporadic, late-day efforts cannot match. Use consistent scheduling to reinforce the habit. Repetition builds automaticity. Waking at the same time and dedicating the first hours to personal goals creates a predictable rhythm. Over time, initiation becomes effortless, reducing reliance on motivation and willpower. Habitual structure allows mornings to serve as a reliable engine of progress, producing consistent output and reinforcing identity as someone who acts deliberately toward meaningful objectives. Eliminate low-value activities from the early hours. Social media, news consumption, casual browsing, and reactive tasks deplete mental energy and reduce focus. Postpone these activities until after essential goals are addressed. Guarding attention in the morning amplifies the quality of work and ensures that energy is allocated to what truly matters. Every avoided distraction is an opportunity gained for purposeful action and progress. Pair effort with reward strategically. Completing morning tasks produces psychological satisfaction, reinforcing habits of consistency and discipline. Celebrate small achievements, acknowledge progress, and note improvements in skill, knowledge, or output. Recognition of effort increases motivation, builds confidence, and strengthens the habit loop, ensuring that morning productivity continues to grow organically. Psychological reinforcements sustains momentum over long periods, transforming temporary effort into enduring practice. Monitor performance and adapt routines as needed. Reflect on which activities produce the most meaningful progress, which methods enhance focus, and which adjustments increase energy and engagement. Morning routines should be dynamic, optimized for maximum output and personal satisfaction. Continuous refinement ensures that time investment remains efficient and aligned with evolving goals, preventing stagnation and inefficiency. Integrate physical and mental wellness into morning practices. Energy, focus, and clarity are contingent upon the body and mind being primed for effort. Light exercise, hydration, meditation, and balanced nutrition increase capacity for concentration, creativity, and strategic thinking. Mornings dedicated to personal goals become exponentially more effective when foundational health is maintained, ensuring that action is not undermined by fatigue or stress. Commit to consistency rather than intensity alone. Mornings spent on personal goals do not require marathon sessions. Small, regular blocks of focused effort compound over weeks and months. Long-term adherence produces results far beyond occasional bursts of productivity. Discipline in showing up consistently, even for short periods, creates momentum, reinforces identity, and accumulates measurable progress. Recognize the ripple effect of morning focus. Starting the day with purpose shapes behavior, mindset, and energy for the entire day. Tasks completed early reduce anxiety, enhance decision-making, and increase confidence in later action. Success in mornings breeds success in subsequent activities, creating a positive feedback loop that strengthens both capability and motivation. Early achievement becomes the foundation for sustained high performance. Finally, make spending mornings on personal goals a non-negotiable commitment. Guard this time with intention, design routines that prime both body and mind, and engage in actions that produce measurable progress. Each morning invested compounds into skill, knowledge, and accomplishment, creating momentum that carries through the day and accumulates over a lifetime. By prioritizing personal objectives before the demands of others or the distractions of the day, mornings become the engine of growth, creativity, and deliberate success, transforming ambition into tangible achievement and potential into realized results. Number 10. Limit distractions to protect clarity. Limiting distractions to protect clarity is essential for achieving focus, sustaining energy, and maximizing effectiveness in every aspect of life. Distractions are subtle yet powerful forces that fragment attentions, scatter mental resources, and reduce the quality of thought. Each interruption, whether digital, social, or environmental, diminishes clarity and slows progress toward meaningful goals. Protecting mental space allows ideas to form, decisions to be made deliberately, and action to be purposeful rather than reactive. Clarity is not a passive state. It must be actively cultivated by removing unnecessary interruptions and creating an environment conducive to concentrated effort. The first step in limiting distractions is awareness. Most distractions operate on autopilot, scrolling social media, checking notifications, or succumbing to external interruptions happens without conscious recognition. Observe your patterns carefully. Identify when attention drifts, which triggers initiate distraction, and what habitual behaviors fragment focus. Keeping a log for a few days can illuminate hidden drains on clarity. Recognizing these patterns is crucial because you cannot control what you cannot see, and awareness creates the foundation for strategic intervention. Control the digital environment deliberately. Smartphones, computers, and connected devices are major sources of attention fragmentation. Notifications, pop-ups, and endless feeds continuously vie for focus, reducing mental bandwidth. Silence non-essential alerts, close unnecessary tabs, and use tools that block distractions during periods of concentrated work. Designate specific windows for checking messages or emails, rather than allowing them to dictate attention. Digital boundaries preserve energy, allowing the mind to engage with tasks requiring depth and focus. Optimize the physical environment for clarity. A cluttered, noisy, or disorganized space naturally diminishes concentration. Create work areas that are clean, orderly, and intentionally arranged for the tasks at hand. Remove unnecessary items, minimize visual clutter, and ensure essential tools are easily accessible. Environmental cues signal the brain to focus and reduce cognitive load associated with locating materials or navigating chaos. A controlled physical space supports sustained attention, making it easier to remain fully present and productive. Schedule time intentionally to reduce reactive behavior. Open-ended schedules allow distractions to seep in, while structured blocks of time prioritize important tasks. Designate periods for high concentration work, breaks, and routine or low-energy activities. Temporal boundaries reduce the mental strain of constant decision-making and prevent scattered effort. When clarity is protected by deliberate scheduling, the brain is free to engage deeply with each task, rather than constantly switching context. Identify and manage social distractions. Interpersonal interactions are necessary, but can consume cognitive and emotional resources if unmanaged. Limit time spent in interactions that are unproductive or emotionally draining during periods designated for focused work. Set expectations with colleagues, family, or peers regarding availability and interruptions. Use quiet signals, such as closed doors or dedicated spaces, to indicate focus periods. By controlling social inputs, mental energy is preserved for deliberate decision-making and meaningful output. Prioritize tasks to protect attention. Not all activities are equally important. Clarity is enhanced when the mind is directed toward high-value objectives rather than reactive, low-priority work. Identify the most impactful tasks daily and tackle them during periods of peak focus. Avoid the trap of constant busyness, which fragments attention and creates the illusion of productivity. Focused effort on meaningful objectives increases efficiency, effectiveness, and the sense of accomplishment, reinforcing the importance of mental clarity. Practice single tasking over multitasking. The brain cannot truly focus on multiple complex activities simultaneously. Attempting to do so fragments attention, reduces quality, and increases cognitive fatigue. Concentrate fully on one task at a time, completing it before moving to the next. Single tasking allows deeper engagement, higher quality output, and reduced mental strain. By training the mind to prioritize one focus point, clarity is strengthened and energy is preserved. Use micro breaks strategically to maintain mental sharpness. Extended periods of concentration can lead to cognitive fatigue, making distractions more tempting. Short, deliberate breaks refresh attention and improve long-term clarity. Techniques such as the Pomodoro method, where work is divided into focused intervals followed by brief pauses, reinforce the ability to sustain attention and prevent mental depletion. Breaks are not interruptions but strategic resets that enhance overall productivity and focus. Minimize internal distractions by training the mind. Thoughts, worries, or unresolved mental chatter can fragment attention, even without external interference. Techniques such as mindfulness, meditation, or journaling help regulate internal dialogue, allowing mental space for deliberate thinking. By observing thoughts without reacting impulsively, mental clarity is preserved, enabling more deliberate decision-making and sustained engagement with high-priority tasks. Internal discipline reinforces the protection of attention, complementing external measures. Remove low-value activities that drain mental resources. Entertainment, excessive social media, or habitual consumption of trivial information consumes both time and cognitive energy. Identify activities that provide minimal long-term benefit and reduce or postpone them. Allocate mental bandwidth to activities that produce skill, insight, or meaningful progress. By consciously selecting where attention is directed, distractions are minimized and clarity is preserved for decisions and actions that matter. Establish routines that anchor attention. Consistent daily structures reduce reliance on willpower and limit opportunities for distraction. When habits guide behavior automatically, the mind can focus on meaningful work rather than constant decision-making about what to do next. Morning rituals, dedicated work blocks, and structured breaks create predictable patterns that reinforce clarity and reduce energy lost to indecision or reactive behavior. Monitor performance and refine strategies continuously. Clarity is not static. It requires ongoing protection and adjustment. Reflect on which distractions are most pervasive, which routines are effective, and where energy leaks occur. Adapt the environment, schedule, and mental strategies accordingly. Continuous refinement ensures that attention remains aligned with priorities, protecting clarity over the long term rather than leaving it vulnerable to subtle erosion. Practice saying no strategically. Every unplanned commitment or request has the potential to fragment focus. Learning to refuse non-essential obligations protects mental space for high-priority tasks. Strategic refusal is not avoidance, but deliberate preservation of cognitive energy. By guarding the mind from unnecessary demands, the capacity for clarity, creativity, and problem-solving remains high. Develop rituals for entry into focus states. Specific cues like preparing a workspace, listening to a certain type of music, or beginning with a brief planning session, signal the brain to transition into a state of concentration. These rituals reduce the friction of starting tasks and minimize vulnerability to distraction. Consistent cues reinforce neural pathways associated with focus, making sustained clarity increasingly natural and effortless. Leverage accountability to maintain attention. External or self-imposed accountability structures reduce the likelihood of succumbing to distractions. Setting deadlines, sharing progress with peers, or using tracking systems provides pressure to maintain focus and discourages fragmented effort. Accountability ensures that attention is preserved for tasks that produce results, reinforcing the habit of clarity and practice. Finally, treating clarity as a resource to be actively protected transforms performance. Limiting distractions, both external and internal, is not about restriction, but about prioritization. By controlling digital inputs, structuring the environment, managing social and internal influences, scheduling purposefully, and practicing disciplined attention, mental clarity becomes a reliable foundation for all productive action. Every focused hour produces higher quality work, better decisions, and sustained energy, while fragmentation diminishes both effectiveness and satisfaction. Protecting clarity is a deliberate choice that amplifies results, reduces stress, and ensures that potential is consistently converted into meaningful achievement.